It's a garment that you wear on the upper half of your body that is semi-fitted, and so this is where vertical lengths are super important. We're going to check bust height, waist height, different lengths, and it's going to be super helpful. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and I have a fitting refresher for you. I like to put into practice and show you the nitty-gritty of how I apply fitting, and also based on very in-depth episodes I have done in the past. I have done a very in-depth episode about taking your measurements if you're going to sew a blazer, a jacket, a blouse, anything from this area of your body. So I'm going to link those videos for you so you can have a look at them if you've missed out. There's a lot of helpful information for you there. I'm going to apply all of these concepts really quickly and show you what I do with the pattern I want to fit, so you can get an insight into how this is done in a practical sense. Now, what am I looking for? Bust height, waist height. And when are those super important? It's usually when the garment you're going to fit is fitted or semi-fitted. Usually you'll find when you look at the pattern pieces that there is a shape coming in at the waist and then coming out at the hips. That's where the waist height becomes super important because it needs to match your body. The same thing is for your bust height over here. So if you're sewing something boxy and loose, these things tend to be not that important. But when you have a dot or a princess seam around the bust shaping, it becomes mega important. Usually fitted garments don't have that much ease, and so you really need to get these vertical lengths properly, or else it's just not going to fit correct. The other time is when you have a completely separate bodice sewn onto a separate skirt, and that is meant to hit at the waist. That becomes super important as well. And what am I fitting in this case? It's a new pattern that will be released tomorrow at Love Notions called Opus Vest. I'll show you the line out here. I love that V-point shape in the front, so nice. And this one's fully lined. You can see that there's princess seams in the front and the back. There's a lot of shaping here. You know, if you get the fit right, it's going to be amazing. It also needs a bit of finesse, you know. We can fit into a size, whatever size it is. Our circumference might match the same as someone else's, but we have different lengths and proportions, so this is where the tweaks need to happen. In this case, the circumferences have nothing to do with the fit here. I'm sewing a size large with the standard bust option. All my measurements fall within that range, so I'm not concerned about the vest not fitting in that sense, but I am concerned about the curve of that princess seam. I know my bust height is lower. I know I have different proportions. I'm taller, so I want to show you all of this and how I'm going to check the pattern first, do some flat pattern measurements, get the reference right, so from where to measure downwards on the pattern piece, and check the bust height and the waist height. So let's have a look at this little practical bit with the pattern pieces. This is the center front of the vest. It's a pretty fitted vest with princess seams. You can see this is where the side front is going to go. This little mark is your reference for your bust height here. So if I were to draw a little line, this is the bust height right here. Now, from sewing Love Notions patterns before, and because I'm a different height and I usually need to lower bust heights, I'm going to double check this one before I even sew my muslin. I know how to fix this. It's a really easy fix, and if I know that I need to correct it, I might as well correct it now before sewing my first test garment. So what I've done here around this little triangle notch, which marks the bust height of the pattern, I've drawn a little rectangle here. So 2 inches down, 2 inches up, and I just drew that green rectangle that I can cut later and then move this down. How much? I need to check what the bust height is on this pattern. So what I've done here is put a little paper behind the center. It goes all the way up. I've drawn the seam allowance of the shoulders. I'm going to keep drawing that seam allowance, following the same slant towards the center. This type of neckline is not right at the base of my neck. It's more outward, but I really need to know where it is closer to the base of the neck. I've extended that shoulder up with the same angle there. Now from the center, I'm going to measure 8 centimeters. You can see here some images of how I get this measurement. It's just the half of my neck width from side to side. Don't be too specific about this. Mine is 8 centimeters. It's not going to be very different to a lot of people. So don't get too caught up about this. This is not something that goes around. You're not measuring a circumference here. You're literally measuring across. It's just a straight measurement across. In my case, it's 16. So half of that is 8, which means it's from here to there. And that's the highest point of the shoulder if the pattern piece actually reached this section. So that's how I achieve that. And Remember I have an episode that explains this in detail. That's where it comes from. But don't get too caught up in the details. You know, if you measure 9 or 8 or 7, it's not going to make a huge difference. Just try your best to just measure across the width right here. It's not around your neck, it's just across, straight across. That's it. From this center, I'm going to measure that 8 centimeters and mark it right here where the line of the shoulder is. So this would be the high point of my neck. Basically, my neck would be coming down like this. And then that's my shoulders. So you can see how much further from the base of the neck this neckline is going to start from the vest. Some designs like shirts that have collars, they come up pretty close to the base of the neck, but not this design. That's why I don't want to measure from here down. It's not going to be accurate. So having this point here, I can measure down and see what the bust height is on this pattern. That measuring there. And the bust height here is 11.5 inches. I know my bust height is 12.5 inches. So have a look at some images where I'm measuring from the base of my neck, highest point of the shoulder, joining the neck area, and just measuring down to the highest point of the bust. Always with a nice bra that you wear on a day-to-day basis that gives you great support, not a bralette or a sports bra or something with no support, because then it's going to be skewed. I know mine is 12.5 inches. This is 11.5 inches. That means I need to lower this by 1 inch. Super easy, which is pretty common for me. I usually have to lower things by 1 inch, sometimes 1.25 inches. Cut the rectangle. I have already cut a little piece of paper with my inch marked there. Makes it easier. Just put that there, get some tape and stick it down. And then my rectangle is just going to be that inch lower right here. Now I always start adjusting the center area because it's how I measured everything. So now that I know I need to adjust 1 inch, I need to adjust 1 inch to the side front, which is this one right here. But let's smooth this out because there's a little jog right here. You could also use a little curved ruler, but I'm just going to smooth that out. This is my center front now with the inch down. This height now is going to match my bust height. Now we have the side front and I'm going to do the same adjustment, lower it by 1 inch. There is my highest point, that little triangle. I've drawn a line 2 inches above and 2 inches below right there on this rectangle. And I'm just going to cut this out as well. I'm going to get my paper with the inch. So this is going to bring the fullest part of this curve down to where your fullest part is. Otherwise, it's not going to fit correctly. Now you can see that here I have a little extra compared to the piece right there. That's normal because the fullest part is down lower. So I'm actually going to smooth this curve. I'm going to keep this larger amount instead of trimming it smaller here. Otherwise, it's going to end up too fitted. So I've put another piece of paper and I'm just going to smooth this out until I'm back to the regular curve. There. So you can see the difference. And now up here, you have the option of using this curve, which would give you more volume here, or you can just make it smaller until you match that volume here. So I find that at least for me, my shape, I don't tend to have a lot of volume in the upper chest. So I'm going to trim that down a little smaller until I'm at that curve right there. This is a little bit of a trial and error thing. If you have a rounder bust that fills up more your upper chest, then keep this curve the same and then go bigger here. But if you're more hollow on the top like me, then just go from here and smooth it out too. So from this fullest part, I'm just going to draw my new curve here. There. Where I'm going to trim that little bit away, which makes total sense because my fullest part is lower. It's not right here on the upper chest. So this is going to be my new curve. Now, what I've done here is mark where the waist of the pattern is. You can see a little notch there. That's right there. I've drawn a line right here. That is actually the side, and this is how this is going to match. So I've drawn that all across there. That is the waist of the pattern. Now, I know for a fact that this is too high for my waist height. So remember, I measured my bust height here at 12.5 inches. I'm going to use that as a reference. 12.5 inches right there. And keep measuring down. I get 16.25, which is 41 centimeters. I know for a fact that I need at least 1.5 inches more here so that this actually is at my waist. At this point, this waist is going to be sort of empire line for me. So I know I need to add length above this waist right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a quick test garment, non-wearable, just regular white fabric with my bust
already lowered with this, so I can confirm that. I'm going to mark these lines all along my test garment so that I can see them and then see how much I actually need to lower this on my body. So these are the front pieces. I have the line there, and I've done the same with the back pieces. You can see those double notches that match right here. That indicates the waist right there. I'm going to mark these on my test garment and we're going to see how that fits. So it's time for sewing real quick, and let's see how this is going to fit. I'm pretty confident that the bust is going to be perfect.
I had the sneaky suspicion that I needed to lower that bust height. You know, I know how to do it. It's something I do really quickly, and this is an adjustment I'm doing all the time. So that's why I'm confident to just go ahead and do it on the pattern before sewing my test garment. What if you're not that confident to just do it and then check? Maybe you want to see it on your body. Then I would sew the pattern as is, and I would make sure to draw all those lines. You saw that I was planning to draw my waistlines all the way around so I can compare it to my body. In that case, I would draw the bust height where that little triangle is, draw it on the pattern, draw it on your fabric so that on your body you can see what the difference is, and you're going to be able to adjust from there and then go to the paper and then do the adjustment. I just did it before. It's really hard to see this little thing, but this was very fast. 3/8 seam allowance, it's unlined. It's just meant to check what I need to check. So let's see this one on. This is my non-wearable test garment. I like the bust fit after doing the adjustment. Up closer, you can see the bust curve follows my shape perfectly. If I hadn't have lowered this curve, this would be up here. And then at my actual bust, it would be really tight and I would have excess. That's how a badly fitting princess seam looks like. So basically the fullest part would just be down further and it would be super tight here and I would have excess. I'm okay with the depth of the neckline, which is something I wanted to check. I really hope you can see the black line I drew where the waist of the pattern is. So it goes all around and you can see it's very high for me. It's just under my bust basically. So you can see my waist is a good 1.5 inches lower, and that's all around the front and the back. It's pretty even. That's something I really wanted to see. Now I know I need to add the exact same amount all the way around. So that's very helpful. I could have done this with flat pattern measurements, but for sometimes I prefer to see it on my body. So that is super helpful. This was never meant to be wearable. Now I'm very happy with the length that I have right now. This is the length I would like for the vest. So I don't want to make my vest longer. I know I'm going to have to lower this to get that waist placement down to my waist. But in doing so, I'm going to end up lengthening the vest. Solution for that is to take away some length from below this area. You can see that my waist is definitely in the wrong spot. It's basically almost under my bust. And I know the block at Love Notions, at least for me, I always have to add length above the waist to a lot of things. Some of the shirts, some of the dresses. So this is something I am aware of in terms of my vertical proportions. So that was something I knew I had to do, but I wanted to check on my body to see and confirm how much I wanted to do. So now let's look at the pattern pieces and how I'm going to do that. You saw that with my test garment. I'm happy with the total length. I don't want my vest to be longer, but I do want my waist to be correct. So we can always adjust this. Let's see.
So you saw that with my test garment, my waist in the pattern was definitely too high. So I need to fix that. I measured at approximately 1.5 inches, but I'm going to be a little more conservative and I'm going to do 1.25 inches. So what I'm going to do is above this waistline mark, I'm going to draw a line 3/4 of an inch above it. I have already drawn that with a lead pencil. That's why I'm just marking it so you can see it. So that's where I'm going to do my own lengthen line. I like drawing my own shorten and lengthen lines because then I can customize to where I need it to be longer. I don't need it longer here. I need it above the waist. So we'll just cut this apart. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with the front pieces. You can also see that my grain line mark, the original mark was down there. It was really short, the little arrow. So I just extended it to include the whole piece. I did that for all of them. So spread it apart. I've taken the time to cut out what I want to add, 1.25 inches. Makes it so much easier. I'm going to make sure these grain lines match. So I don't want to move it that way or that way. I want it to be the same level. If I get my ruler and my pen, I can just unite them and they match right there. That's the whole idea. And over here on the sides, I'm just going to smooth it out. Okay, I've done my arts and crafts and I've added my 1¼ inches here above the waistline. Side back, I'm still gonna have these little triangle notches that I can match on my fabric that are gonna match my waist. Let's see the front pieces. Done the same thing. Here they are, done the same thing. I drew my line above the waistline, 3/4 inch, added the amount. Now this is pretty straightforward. On the center is straight, then it's a little bit curved. But this one, I'm gonna have to redraw this curve again, sort of got altered with this. So I'm gonna take it here and just smooth it out there. I was really happy with the total length of the vest. The only problem was that the waist placement was too high for me. So when I've added this length above the waist, it's gonna match my waist. But now the vest is gonna be longer than I really wanted it to be. So now I wanna take away some length from at the bottom here. Just to keep the proportions of the vest. This is the longer version to begin with. So I don't want it to be longer than what it should be. I'm not going to take the full 1¼ inch away from here. I'm going to take less, about 3/4. Now to take away length is even easier because all you need to do is overlap. So I'm going to find an amount 2 3/8 further down from the waist. And I'm going to draw new lines everywhere. So I'm going to draw another shorten and lengthen line, but this one I'm going to shorten. So I'm going to do 2 lines here. The first one, and then the amount I want to shorten, which is 3/4. So there it is, 2 new lines. I'm going to do this the same for all the pieces. And then all I'm going to do is cut this and overlap, making sure all these curves make sense. And this is how my vest is going to fit me the best. Keeping the proportions of the design, but just getting that waist placement correct for my body. So I'm going to repeat this to all the pieces. All the same, I'm going to measure at the same distance. 2 3/8 could be 2 inches. I just chose that amount. It just has to be in this section, but higher than the hem so it doesn't mess up the shape that we have down here. Okay, so here are the lines where I overlapped for the back pieces. Now these didn't distort the sides at all. It was maybe a 1/16 of an inch, nothing major, so that's good. Kept the lines the same as you can see. And then the front, the only one that got distorted a little bit was this one when I overlapped. So right there I had to add a little bit just to make it smooth. Right there, it's like 1/8 of an inch. But otherwise, it was pretty painless. Now I'm going to have a vest that's proportional to me. And it's all got to do with vertical things, nothing about circumferences. I'm sewing a straight size. And now with this, I'm super happy. I'm going to cut out a quick denim version. I'm very, very confident it's going to fit really well after all these adjustments.
Okay, here is my wearable test garment. I'm very confident I was going to be able to finish this and wear it. I just wanted to confirm that my waist adjustment was correct. I had already confirmed my bust was okay. So this is just all raw in denim. I've done little things here like put stay tape there so it conserves the shape right here. I've done little extra things. I've sewn my seams, pressed them. I've also drawn that line so that I can see this against my body, and I'm going to try it on wrong sides out so you can see how it fits. Check out my wearable test garment. I'm so happy with it. This is a denim. It's still all pretty raw. You can see stay tape here, the princess seams. I think the fit is very good. You can see that the length hasn't changed in general from the first test garment. It's just that the proportions are a little different. We already knew that the bust curve was perfect right here. The armhole is very good as well. There's no gaping. But if you felt you needed to close it up a little, just close it up by 1/8 of a 1/4 inch here and it would be perfect. Then you would repeat the same with the lining. But I'm very happy with the cover here on the armhole and the depth of this V as well. Now here I have drawn the lines like I did before that mark the waist, and they're actually at my waist right now. And now I'm confident to go ahead and make more versions, finish this one up, and the fit is awesome. So you can see that the process was pretty fast. It's just knowing what to check and how to check. I hope this was helpful. Once I get all this fitting done, I'm so happy to just pick up my actual fabric and start sewing, especially for something like this that can take you quite a while to sew. You know, it's a lined vest, little pattern pieces, lining pieces. It's all these sewing steps for you to use up all that time and then have something that you're not happy with the fit. So definitely the fitting process is worth it. You know, I'm a pattern repeater. I've already done the work and now I can just go ahead and actually enjoy the sewing, which is the best part. I'm super excited about the pattern release. I'm going to have a lot of sewing to share with you, how to line it completely, all the technique. I'm also going to show you a simplified version. And so this is something I really enjoyed sewing and I'm really going to enjoy wearing. So just keep your eyes open for tomorrow's episode. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm very excited to share them. They turned out amazing. See you then. Bye.